On the inventory page, there's one thing I've covered in other videos very briefly, but I do want to have a video specific to it in case you're wanting to do it. And so I'm going to show you how to print these as Kanban. So I'm going to go back to that leg that we did in an earlier video, this KMAR 418 leg. Open that up. This is the Kanban that I brought in, and anytime you get on any image, you can see how we get this little black bar to the right, so you can shrink it. You don't want this image to be too terribly large because it starts making this page expand, so anywhere in there, and it can be pretty small and still work. The same thing can be said for the image you bring in of the leg or any inventory item. It will come in large and then you would shrink it down to an appropriate size. But once you're ready to print a Kanban, and you can show as many of these items as you want or as few as you want. One way of not showing them would be to click on these 6 dots to the left of it and go to this visibility property and say always hide or hide when empty, and so that would not print on any of the Kanbans. Once we hide a property, we're hiding it for all of them. Decide what you want to see here. Choose the items that you want to see, make them visible, and then go to the 3 dots and go to the export option. And with this export option, we will talk about more than just saying take the defaults as I've done in the past. So one of your options is HTML, Markdown, and CSV. PDF makes the most sense for printing. Include database. The current view is correct. Include content. Everything makes sense because we are wanting to show these things down below in the files and images. And then the letter format for most of us is what we would want to do. Your options are those European sizes and lettered, legal, and tabloid. Letter makes the most sense for most people, but this is the one you'll have to manipulate most often. And then include subpages. Obviously that wouldn't make sense for printing a Kanban. And then create folders or subpages doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing right now, so we would ignore that. But if you put this on 100%, these will wrap to another page for sure if you have all of these turned on. There's just no way that it would fit otherwise. But you can play with this from item to item depending on how big your image for your item is. Again, you can shrink it down and make this always work, but I have found for most of the things I've created so far that 70% keeps it all on one page, and so I can say export, and that brings up this dialog for saving the file. It's a PDF. You want to name it, you can see that this name actually includes this, and really there's no reason to reprint this thing unless it actually physically wears out, and so it's not something you'll do frequently. So normally I just save these to the desktop, print them off, and then discard them. So that's what we'll do. It already is set to the desktop, so we'll say save, and I'm just going to double click on the file that was saved. There we are showing the entire page, so it is fitting on one page, and you could just print that out, put it into a cover sheet of some sort. You might fold it in half and put it in a half cover sheet. You also could take this and print it, and if you've got pre-printer, I'm a firm believer in pre-printer. I think it's an awesome solution. That's my default printer all the time. You could send it to pre-printer, and that would bring up something like this. Now you could actually send 4 or 5 of them, and then you can say, hey, I want this to fit on 2 pages. And so now you can see this is an 8.5 by 11 turned in that landscape portion, and so this would be still big enough to shoot with a phone to get the QR code to work, and most of the data would still be plenty legible. If you had sent 4 of them, all 4 of them would be on here. If you had sent 4, if there were 4 pages over here, now 4 pages would fit on a single 8.5 by 11. You could cut them however you wanted to go about it, or if you had labels, you could do that. I probably would opt for this 2 per page type deal. Even if I threw this away and just cut the page in half or folded it in half, that might make sense as a good size for a Kanban in a lot of items. And that is all you need to know about printing Kanbans from the inventory page.